Pascal Janssen was a youth coach at PSV Eindhoven. Brad Sims was president of the Cleveland Cavaliers in the NBA. Kevin O'Toole was a junior at Montclair High School in lovely New Jersey. That was March 8th, 2015. The first game for the New York City Football Club, and today on that exact date, a 10th anniversary celebration against the team they faced on that day, Orlando City FC, and it's part of a celebration here at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, New York, where that first home game was played, and that'll be a separate celebration next week. What's happening, everybody? I'm Glenn Crooks, Matty Lawrence. We'll have your hometown radio call beginning at 7:15 with a pregame show on the New York City FC Network, and also Apple TV, MLS Season Pass. If you're watching this now, you can sync us up while you're watching the game on Apple and MLS Season Pass. There's a little drop-down feature. I think it's in the lower right-hand corner. And I don't really know because I'm always on the air doing the game. You know what I'm saying, Matty?
I get it, Glenn. I get it.
Yeah. So it is fun, a fun time. I know you weren't at that first game. I was there with Tom Kolker down at the Citrus Bowl, a 1-1 draw. And I thought what I'd do, I thought this would be fun. I want to, let's see if I can find it now that I created it. I didn't create it. This picture was taken by the New York City Football Club. But here, Matty, is the starting 11 for that very first game in club history at the Citrus Bowl, 60,000 plus. Look at all the purple. You can tell it's a massive crowd. The atmosphere was fantastic. And so now the quiz is, and the club did this earlier. They put like a little block over everybody's face and said, can you name all 11? And so let's just run through it and just maybe offer at least a couple of things about each. Now, we're going to go upper left first. That's Chris Wingert. Now, Wingert won the Herman Trophy for St. John's University and then went on to become a professional, and Real Salt Lake is where he played a majority of his time, but he was on the very first New York City team playing at the back. He's now a player agent. I don't know if you noticed, we saw him either in Miami or L.A. I think it was L.A., and he's now, he's meeting with general managers and things like that. So Wingert is on the other side.
I think he was at a hotel in LA. I think he was meeting up with a few of the New York City FC players and probably the staff as well. So, yeah, he certainly, as an agent, you want to keep your hand in, so to speak, and keeping yourself relevant. Well,
one thing he confirmed recently is that he is the agent for Tim Parker, who has recently returned to the New York Red Bulls. Then it's Andrew Jacobson. He played 234 games at MLS, but just 30 games for New York City over the course of the 2015 and 2016 season. And then it's Josh Williams, who played the first year at New York City, then eventually got back to Columbus, which is his hometown, Columbus, Ohio, and the Columbus Crew. Josh Saunders. I always found this fascinating, and I don't remember the genealogy, but he was eligible and played for the Puerto Rican national team. And he was the goalkeeper for many seasons in MLS, including he won an MLS Cup with the San Jose Earthquakes in 2003. Next to Saunders, the goalkeeper, on the right of him in this picture is Mix Diskerud, who has the historic first goal for New York City in this game. And it put New York City up 1-0. Kaká scored the equalizer off a set piece, which went off the side in the wall of Jeb Brovsky. We're going to skip in the bottom right. That's Brovsky. And I've had him on my Sirius XM show. He's a guy that's been an ambassador for the Homeless World Cup. Very cool dude. That's Brovsky on the bottom right. Now, next to Mix Diskerud, as we go back upstairs, Adam Nemec. 9 games, no goals for New York City. He was a striker, by the way. But he was scoring a ton of goals for Slovakia, but he could never score for New York City. Bottom left, Jason Hernandez. Many, many games, mostly with San Jose and MLS, but also New York City for a couple of years. He's now the general manager of Toronto FC and has a lot of work to do, as we've noticed over the first couple of games, including the last match that New York City's opponent today, Orlando City, played, where they thrashed Toronto 4-2. Ned Grabavoy. He's the general manager / sporting director of Portland. David Villa, all-time leading scorer for New York City FC, and his 6 goals against Orlando City still remains the top figure for New York City. And then look at the guy next to him, the young Matty Belushi, who's now a first-team assistant for Pascal Janssen here. And that, Matty Lawrence, is your starting 11. And now I'll try to get rid of him. Goodbye. But that's, that was the first team.
Yeah, obviously that was an iconic game, of course, and this today is the 10th year or 10th year anniversary celebrations, and it should be a good one. It's a pretty reasonable night for soccer, considering we're at the beginning of March. It's going to be a little bit cold.
It's going to get there.
But it's not bad out there at all.
It's not too bad.
It's not raining, and it's not too cold, that's for sure.
Well, and the field is immaculate.
Considering what is underneath it. The field is as good as it can get, considering that you've got the infield cinder just a few inches underneath about at least a quarter of the pitch. So it looks fantastic. It really does, and this should be a good game. And look, what we know with Orlando this season, and probably the few seasons before as well, they know how to score a goal, Glenn, and they know how to concede a goal as well. So let's hope that there's some goals in the game tonight.
Before we leave the celebration, we want to at least alert everyone in pregame ceremony. There's going to be 4 former New York City players, including Andrea Pirlo, Kwadwo Poku. Poku is so popular here, especially coming off the bench late and making these dynamic runs. He actually, the second game of that 2015 season, Matty, was a pretty famous here because, first of all, it featured a guy named Andrea Pirlo making his debut. And here's Pirlo earlier in the week up at the Empire State Building with Maxi Morales and Matt Freese for the current team. But Pirlo is here with Poku, Tony Rocha, and R.J. Allen. But Poku had 3 assists in a game that New York City won here at Yankee Stadium 5-3 when Pirlo made his debut. Kyle Larin had a hat trick for Orlando City. His 9 goals against New York City is the all-time record for Orlando. All right, so that's part of the celebration here. So we wanted to honor that. Now, what New York City is up against here today, coming off the draw at Inter Miami and the loss to LAFC. So failing to win either of their opening 2 matches for the 4th consecutive year and for the 6th time in 7 seasons. Part of that maybe New York City's always started the season on the road because of kind of what you referred to. We're in the Northeast, and it's not that bad a night here. The most recent was the 1-0 defeat to LAFC. What stood out to you about that game?
Just a game where points were dropped late on in the game, Glenn. And granted, that was only a point, but that's 3 points have been dropped from 2 games, one in the 100th minute against Inter Miami, and this one against LAFC in the 86th minute. It smacks of a certain amount of lack of strong mentality. At times, that for me also smacks of a lack of leadership. And you want the leadership normally, if you're a little bit under the cosh in the last few minutes, to come from your goalkeeper and then your back line. But it can come from anywhere on the field. And I think it's highly evident in the opening 2 games that a lack of mentality and a lack of leadership is fully evident. It doesn't mean it's a lack of trying. It doesn't mean it's a lack of cohesion, but it certainly is those 2 things. Leaders. We did not see a born leader out there. And I think one of the only leaders in the squad, really for me, hopefully will return to the field of play today, Glenn.
In Maxi Morales?
In Thiago Martins' return.
Oh, in Thiago Martins as well. Forgive me. I was focused on one other thing there for a moment, Matty, so forgive me on that. But yeah, Thiago Martins back in the 11 for New York City FC, as is Maxi Morales, making his 3rd consecutive start. I think you talked about the leadership, so Martins is back in. Good stuff.
Yeah.
I spoke with Pascal Janssen, part of the pregame show, which is coming up at 7:15 on the New York City FC network. That's nycfc.com/radio. If you have the New York City app, you can pick it up there. If you have the TuneIn app, you can go to the network and pick it up there as well. But here is Janssen talking about when Maxi Morales has had to come out of the first 2 games, replaced by Andres Pereira both times. Pereira unavailable tonight. So we kind of went over some of the alternatives, some of the possibilities if Maxi isn't in there.
I don't know if you agree with the assessment, but it seems like when he had to leave both games and Andres Perea came in for him, some of that was lost, maybe even the identity of what you were trying to do at those points.
It's a combination of both. We need to make sure that Maxi stays available for each and every game. So that's one topic that we have in our minds always. On the other hand, Andres Perea is a type of player that can add a few things from this position, which Maxi unfortunately is not capable of doing anymore. And that's going over your opponent and making sure you have the support going into the striker's position or even behind the defensive line of the opponent. And Andreas is a guy that has that capacity to do that. Those were things on my mind in order to create even more in possession than only the qualities that Maxi can add. But there's a sense of truth in what you're saying now, because Maxi is a very big part of our midfield play and our midfield structure. As I said, we have more players that can do other things and add things to the team.
With Perea down injured for this match against Orlando City, can you share what kinds of things you're considering in the event Maxi can't go 90?
Yeah, we have Johnny Shore, of course, who can be added to midfield. That, however, changes our shape if Maxi weren't able to continue. We have Hannes Wolf, who has played in number 10 position as well. We can also adapt to going to two strikers in the center part of the pitch with Munsev and Alonso. So there's a few things that we can do. And don't forget Maximo Carrizo, who is also an option as an offensive midfield player.
All right, Matty. So what you took away from that is there were four options if Maxi has to depart the game. And, oft discussed these days is New York City's need, perhaps in the transfer market, of obtaining a number 10. We saw the GAM figures released by MLS. New York City at the head of the pack with over 4.2 million GAM available. Those aren't automatic transactions that happen there, and it can be juggled in certain ways depending on the roster composition. But at the current time, it's 4 under-22s and 2 DPs. That's the way David Lee and the rest of the department have decided to go. But without Maxi in there, I think we've noticed it. And so has Pascal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it becomes a little bit of a problem when you are so reliant on a 37-year-old, 38-year-old player to come in, and a player that you deemed almost not needed in the team 2 seasons ago when you let him go back to Argentina, back to Racing. Things didn't work out for him then. He came back almost as just a makeshift squad player for last season. Then obviously he had that terrible injury, and fair play to him for coming back. But now all of a sudden, with the loss of Santi Rodriguez, he's the only player, it seems, that can pick a pass in the final third. And Pascal Janssen has said that. He's said that on record, leading into the final third. And within the final third, there's a lack of creativity, I think. And hopefully I'm not paraphrasing or putting words in his mouth. He certainly said that has been a problem in keeping possession and opening up defences. And to have somebody that you let go 2-3 years ago, being the only person who can do that, becomes a little bit problematic. And those GAM figures, Glenn, I think everybody knows it. I'm sure everybody in the hierarchy on down through Pascal Janssen, into the players, down to the broadcasters, down to the fans, knows that there needs to be players added, and relatively soon. I think the window shuts is in mid-April, and
April 23rd.
You would expect that there be more than one addition. I think before Santi Rodriguez left, I think a number 6 was the critical position. Now that Santi Rodriguez has left, there's 2 critical positions. There's other positions as well that need strengthening, but they're critical. The holding 6, of course, and the number 10, Glenn. And I would have thought the lack of goals, the lack of creativity means that number 10 position is the vital one of the 2 at the moment.
I had the starting 11, which we received about an hour before game time, scrolling in the bottom third, but I've eliminated it because there's been a change. Hannes Wolf will be in for Agustin Ojeda, so it's going to be Freeze, Martins the captain, O'Toole, Ilinic, Hack, Morales, Fernandez, Wolf. Johnny Shore gets his first career start, Keaton Parks, and then Alonso Martinez. So that's your 11 for New York City FC. Tavon Gray, there was a question about Tavon Gray here from KP. What happened to him? Did they figure out how that happened? It was strange. Well, he went down at the 8-minute mark of the last game at LAFC, replaced by Ilinich, and we saw him training on the side on Thursday. Before the game, we saw him working with the physical coach and the performance coaches, just working on the lower body. So we don't know the specifics. It looked like a hamstring.
At the time, he was holding, I think it was the back of the right leg, the back of the right knee. My assumption was at the time that it was just a little tweak of the hamstring. It may not be. That is purely, my own speculation. We don't know. We haven't been given anything by anybody. That is fair enough. We know it's called a lower body injury, but yes, it certainly looked like a minor hamstring tweak, hopefully at worst.
And then
the way
Pereira,
he was moving, it looks as though he's not far off.
And the same on Thursday at training. But Andres Pereira also out, and that was unexpected. But he had hernia surgery and maybe a little bit of a setback. He came in for Maxi Morales in each of the first 2 games. He's not available today as they're trying to nurse this situation a little bit. I never had a hernia.
I had double hernia surgery in about 2009, 2010.
Right.
And I must
You're
admit,
the man to talk about it.
I did similar. I was very lucky that I went up to Manchester, had the same surgeon that operated on Manchester United players. I was certainly not as good as them, but I could manage to have their surgeon. But I came back too quickly. I was desperate to play. We had big games coming up, and I came back a little early and just had a setback. And it was only a minor one, but I was then out for another 2 or 3 weeks. No idea what's going on with Pereira, but I know that it's certainly not unusual that you can come back and think that you're fine, and then you realise once you're out there and you're at full speed, anything in training, anything with the physio stuff, you cannot replicate what happens to you in your body on a match day. So maybe he came in and again just tweaked something slightly. It may be to do with the hernia, or it may just be the fact we know with so many injuries, you focus so much on the injury that you have that you forget about the other muscles around it sometimes, and then you tweak something else around it. So who knows? Again, this is mere speculation. What isn't speculation is that Pereira's a massive miss within the squad for its physicality.
Well, hence Johnny Shore getting the start probably as well. And Shore made an appearance in the opener at Miami when
did well.
He did. And Tanasiewicz had a yellow card, probably should have had a second yellow in the first half. So Pascal Janssen elected to sit him down, brought Johnny Shore in, pushed Justin Hack into the back line, and that's what's happening here again. Hack will go into a back 4 next to Thiago Martins, while Shore is in the midfield with Keith Parks. I think I have I just love this picture. So this is Johnny Shore with Keith Parks a while ago. That is now Johnny Shore has been with the club since he was 10 years old in the academy, and here he is getting a selfie with Keith Parks. I don't know what year this was, but now, Johnny Shore is a very young-looking 17-year-old.
However, 17. That was probably 4 years ago, was it?
At least
similar.
Yeah, at least. So there with Keith Parks. I'm Glenn Crooks, Matty Lawrence, New York City FC Network, with a game coming up, a home opener, 10th anniversary celebration as New York City playing host to Orlando City. It's been a fairly even overall series. 9 wins for New York City, 7 defeats, and 8 draws in the regular season. Last year, it was 1-1 the final and 4-2 the final. 1-1 on the road, 4-2 on the at home. And the one thing significant, I think, about that 1-1 game, Hannes Wolf scored in that game. It was July the 20th. It was his 5th goal of the year. It was his final goal of the year. His last goal for New York City came last summer. Originally, it was Augustino Heda and Julian Fernandez on the wings. That's the way it looked like in training. That's the lineup we got, so we're not sure exactly what happened for what appears to be a game day decision, perhaps a last-minute decision, but Wolf is back in the 11. Looks like he'll play on the left side with Fernandez on the right. So it might be for defensive purposes because he did defend very well against Buwanga last week.
Yeah, that is for certain. It seems strange for it to be such a late call, though, because I don't think there's any really doubting what the Orlando City lineup would be, certainly on those flanks. I think we knew what was going to come from that. So, yeah, for me, it's very, very strange to make something look so late. if a player hasn't got injured in the warm-ups, Glenn. And obviously the players hadn't even been out for the warm-ups when there was that swift change. So, who knows? You've been down the arcade, you put your money in the slot machines, and all of a sudden, the starting lineup, those 3 bells, the 3 cherries, have come up slightly differently. Who knows? It's just, as I say, it's very strange. I've never seen something like that. Certainly not that I've known about. Maybe it's just the fact that we had knowledge of it, Glenn, that's all.
Well, New York City have 2 goalkeepers on the bench tonight, so that gives you an idea of how thin they are as well. As for Orlando, they are second in MLS. They have 6 goals through their first 2 matches. However, they've also conceded 6 goals through their first 2 matches. Matty, they have 48 goals in their last 19 regular season matches dating back to last year. That's 2.5 goals per match. Now, Facundo Torres is out, but acquired was Marko Pasalic. He's a German-Croatian, comes from Rijeka, which is interesting. I always think of Eber, who was on a wonderful post by the New York City FC digital department. If you go on New York City's Twitter, haven't seen it yet, it's a post with people like Jack Harrison and David Villa and Frank Lampard, all wishing the fans and team good luck in this 10th anniversary game. But Eber ends it by showing off his 2021 MLS ring for winning the cup. It's a wonderful thing. But at Rijeka, Pasalic was not as prolific as a guy like Eber. Eber had 25 goals in 38 matches coming into New York City and then led them in scoring in 2019. And Pasalic is, maybe he's not as pure a scorer, he's more of a winger, but 8 goals in 49 matches coming in.
Yeah, nothing like as prolific. And not only just the goals, though, we can get away with saying somebody's not quite so prolific if they're playing on the wing because you should be providing assists, but he didn't have a great deal of assists in that time. He only had 5 assists in that time as well. And
I think he had 10 goals, I think, too. I said 8.
He had 15 goals over the 2 seasons at Rijeka. He had 5 assists. That's in all competitions, not just in the league.
Right.
But he also, before that, he was at some big clubs. He was at Stuttgart in Germany. He was at Borussia Dortmund. But for those teams, he only made 1 full appearance. That was for Dortmund. Didn't make any for Stuttgart. But he was very, very good in the reserve teams. But again, it's not true first-team football. So, it'll be interesting to see how he fares. But what we do know is he's got 2 goals in the 2 games. So he's doing okay in his Orlando City career, even though it's a very small sample size.
Both sides warming up here at Yankee Stadium. If you're watching this, you can see New York City at the far end as it's really a wonderful night to play football. There had been a fairly stiff breeze earlier, and it seems to be coming and going. We're looking at the corner flags, which give an indication as to what's happening pitch side, and it's not anything that seems like it will play a role in this match. So, Matty, Brad Sims, Roberto and I sat down with Roberto Abramowitz from our podcast, NYCFC Views, a weekly pod that you should subscribe to and listen to, and maybe we'll have Matty on as a guest sometime. But we had Brad Sims this time, the president and CEO. So it was an exclusive sit-down. But I thought the thing, and you asked me on the car ride over, wondering, what we thought was significant from it. And I thought the timetable of the stadium construction. So here's what he told us this week. And you can see the full Brad Sims interview on our NYCFC Views. Just go, it's on a YouTube page, Sick Pod, and you'll find it. But here's Brad Sims.
I wonder how closely you track the construction timetable. I think it's 13 weeks in, and whether you're constantly judging when you're going to be able to open this thing in 2027. Can you give us an update on that front?
Yeah, very, very closely. I mean, like on a week by week basis, like, and like we're 3 to 5 weeks ahead of schedule already through like 13 to 14 weeks. I think that some of that you're building in extra time. You don't know, like when we're putting some like 238 piles like into the ground. You don't know for sure. I mean, those go deep in the ground. You don't know what's going to hit. We did test piling like in the fall. We've done some, to try and figure out like, are we going to have any issues underground? But you don't really know until you're in there. And so, and again, we're
What
talking
kinds
about
of things might you encounter underground?
I don't want to comment on that. Your Jersey comment earlier. Like you can use your imagination.
Okay. All right.
So
Sopranos.
Right. Exactly.
All right, so they're not sure what they're going to run into while they're digging holes for the polls, but 3 to 5 weeks ahead of schedule, which they've got a target date, which is undisclosed really, but it's going to be April probably. And now they're just any time they can work their way back. They'd love to be able to work it back so that the first match of the season perhaps is the home opener and the christening of the stadium.
Yeah, that has to be what everybody's goal is to be here and to be open the beginning of the 2027 season. You hope it's the first game, as you say, but if it has to be game 3 or game 4 or game 5,
not too much. But you don't want
be
some of the stadium we've seen. I remember Portland was making some improvements, and their first 8 games were on the road.
Yeah.
And
you don't want that. It's not
right.
good for the team whatsoever to have that many games, to be playing catch up for that long. That's for certain, because we know in MLS with the traveling, it's tough to get points on the road.
It's a 10th anniversary celebration, Matty, and I will tell you what, Pascal Janssen, in his first year as head coach for New York City, will only be celebrating if New York City earns 3 points and he gets his first win as the New York City coach. 162 games as the manager of AZ Alkmaar. It's one of the reasons he's here, his success there, and now looking to, in the home opener, get his first win for the New York City Football Club. So for Matty Lawrence, I'm Glenn Crooks. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sorry that we didn't get to all the comments, but we'll keep trying. But you should still come in and listen to us either on the network or on Apple TV MLS Season Pass. Use the drop-down feature to listen to the English hometown commentary of New York City and Orlando City. Enjoy the game, everybody.